PlayStation 2 had arguably the greatest Dragon Ball Z games ever. I mean, look at Sagas if you need any evidence of that. Following that masterpiece of a video game was the Tenkaichi trilogy, and ask any Dragon Ball fan, they'll all likely say this was a humongous part of their childhood. I personally would still pick Budokai 3 as my favorite of this era, but I can't deny how good the Tenkaichi series was, man. I remember begging my mom for these every single year. I think somebody had an early copy of the first Tenkaichi game and I went crazy. I couldn't contain myself because I found out that Great Ape was a playable character. These games were limited to the home console, and to be honest with you, after Budokai Tenkaichi 3 dropped, I kind of just went on with my life. Besides some small gems like Burst Limit, Dragon Ball Z games definitely entered into a bit of a boring period after this. The unfortunate part about this time is, this series, Budokai Tenkaichi, they actually went portable during this period of time. But it went portable when everybody already moved on to the next generation of consoles, and the PSP was just yesterday's news. I could only imagine the amount of people that would have loved the Tenkaichi experience on the go, the same exact way I know so many people are attached to the Shin Budokai games because it gave them that exact experience. Alas, on October 19th, 2010, Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team dropped in the United States. Is it any good? Well, honestly, yeah, it's very good, actually, yeah. Let's talk about it. My name is Josue. Like you saw in the intro, this is the Panic Brothers channel, so welcome, and let's talk Tenkaichi Tag Team. This is the fourth and final Dragon Ball Z video game to be released on the PlayStation Portable. I've touched on every single DBZ PSP game so far, but previous games were all utilizing the Budokai engine. Every single PlayStation 2 DBZ game retold the exact same story from the beginning when Raditz arrived up until the end of the Buu saga, and sometimes adapts the stories with the films, GT, and a little bit of the OG Dragon Ball. Now PSP Dragon Ball games, on the other hand, went a completely different avenue, with Shin Budokai adapting the story of Fusion Reborn, but really dragging it out, like tremendously. Its sequel, Another Road, told the story of the Buu saga, but in the future timeline. And the third PSP game, Evolution, is, well, it's an adaptation of the Evolution film. I don't know what else to say about that. But don't hate on it, because the game is actually pretty good. Tenkaichi Tag Team, though, is a little bit of a return to basics. No GT, no OG Dragon Ball at all. So that's right, it's once again the regular story of Dragon Ball Z. The story mode here, called Dragon Walker, features cute little chibi versions of characters as you traverse a little open world. I really love it. It's cute and it has its charms. And honestly, the presentation of this game across the board is just wonderful, especially when compared to Another Road and especially Evolution. Listen, I know I just said that that game is pretty good. It still is, but the presentation is pretty awful. That's one of the bad things about that game. While there unfortunately isn't really an opening to the game similar to Shin Budokai, the style of the main menu and even the little Gohan minigame that plays during load screens just adds so much charm to the game overall. No matter what, you can't really say there wasn't love put into this game. Even the music is amazing, and the fact that there's voice acting. Not for every single scene it comes and goes, but still there's voice acting. I got so hyped when this came up in Another Road, so I'm actually really happy that it's back in this. Now, perhaps this game having been made so late into the life of the PSP was a benefit overall for Tenkaichi Tag Team. The developers Spike, who also made every single Tenkaichi game thus far, including Sparking Zero, just really maximize what the PSP can do. I mean, not only does Tag Team have over 70 characters, and that's of course considering Super Saiyan 1 Goku, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. I mean, I never really liked that Tenkaichi, the Tenkaichi series does that, you know, like I hate that they separate each transformation as a separate character, but nonetheless, if we think that way, there's literally over 70 characters in this game. And they're all insanely detailed models, and the environments are just wonderful. Maybe this is me just underestimating what the PSP can do, but this game really feels like Spike had a deep understanding of what the PSP was capable of. I admit it, I actually think I prefer how this game looks compared to the PS2 games. But sorry, let's go back to the story mode. I know it sounded like I was critiquing the game a little bit for maybe going back to its roots, but I guess after having played 3 back-to-back-to-back PSP DBZ games that were all unique in its storytelling, I actually did feel a bit happy to go back to playing through the classic story for old time's sake. What wasn't great though was the grammar and spelling mistakes of previous games is back in this as well. The grammar is just straight up off at the most random points. I don't know how this happened, but out of the 4 DBZ PSP games, Dragon Ball Evolution somehow ended up being the best game on a grammatical level. So good stuff, Geeko. I still hate you, Evolution Bulma. She was the worst character in that game. Anyways, the story is definitely abridged, but I mean, you know, that makes sense. It always is. The gameplay in Tag Team feels very similar to regular Tenkaichi, just modified for PSP, and of course, with that added tag team element to the game where either you or the opponent would have a partner character. We first see this gameplay element in effect in the very first major battle of the game, with Goku and Piccolo together to fight against Raditz. At first I thought since the game is on the PSP, the roster would see serious massive cuts. So for a moment there, I really thought characters like Tien or Yamcha wouldn't even be in the game at all. I mean, they weren't even in Shin Budokai, so can you really blame me? The game starts by only mentioning Goku, Gohan, Krillin, and Piccolo, but as soon as Nappa and Vegeta come into the story mode and you're flying towards Nappa, you get the option to pick your tag team partner. And seeing Chaozu on this list? Seeing Chaozu? Yeah, this is the Tenkaichi game, alright, yeah. And obviously, I picked Chaozu. Now, fighting can get a bit repetitive, but I'm just still shocked at how they were able to capture the Tenkaichi experience fairly well on a PSP with less buttons. I'm a sucker for action games that have partner characters also. I think Kingdom Hearts really affected that part of my brain, but there's a reason why I hold Kakarot so high up on my list of DBZ games. Like in Kakarot, I was able to have Android 18, Goten, even Supreme Kai as partner characters. Like, that was sick. So having Chaozu or Piccolo or whoever else you get in the story fight alongside you, oh, that's so cool. It's such a nice treat. But unfortunately, the opposite ends up happening with the enemy, where they will have a partner to fight with, and it can get annoying to deal with, especially when you're by yourself. Goku fights both Nappa and a Cyberman at the same time, and I'm still not really sure how this gameplay element works, but it was like Nappa had multiple lives, so even after you get him to 0 HP, he's right back in it with full health. It kind of dragged the fight a bit, felt like bro just refused to die. And this element carries on to the rest of the game. Now, Shin Budokai Another Road had something similar in its gameplay where you had to keep fighting the enemy multiple times over and over before he eventually was donezo's, and honestly, I hate it. I love the gameplay here, but trying to artificially drag out these fights like this is not it. But from here, the game ends up feeling like any other Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi game. While Shin Budokai did a phenomenal job bringing the Budokai gameplay experience to a portable system, it failed in making it feel like a complete Budokai experience with a story mode that just didn't make the cut compared to the home system games. Another Road definitely did better since it at least implemented a very complex RPG-like system and tower defense mechanics into its story mode, but it was still following a what-if plotline. Evolution was just... Okay, another bad part about Evolution was the story mode. I keep mentioning bad things. It was a good game, I promise. I promise. Now, Tag Team not only captures the gameplay of the home consoles perfectly, but it's the story. It's Raditz to Boo. This truly is the complete Tenkaichi experience on the go, with the only downside being GT and OG Dragon Ball and movie characters getting cut. And yet, I think that's the downside of this game. While playing through the Namek saga of Tag Team, a thought started creeping in my head that never really left while I kept playing. This game does almost nothing special to make it stand out among the Tenkaichi games. No unique story mode, though I will say at the end of the game we are treated with some what-if stories that, in my opinion, don't do much. What if Bardock never died from Frieza? He came to Earth, decides to become a good grandfather to Gohan? I mean, maybe this would have been a good story to tell, but Tag Team does not do this what-if story any level of justice. Or what if a Cyberman gets sick of being treated like a tool by Nappa and decides to fight back? Or a random Frieza soldier who was bent on world domination, and he fights Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I don't know, maybe you feel differently about this, but none of this really does it for me. In my opinion, the best implementation of what if storylines and concepts was in Budokai 1 and 2, when you had that Cell absorbing Krillin segment. That was just so funny. And you also had these other fusions that took place in Budokai 2, like Tien and Yamcha together, and Goku and Hercule. Like, it's so funny and so sick that both of those games went out of their way to create even new models. Hell, if we're gonna talk about new models meant just for what-if storylines, I'm finally gonna talk about a good thing about Dragon Ball Evolution on PSP. Dragon Ball Evolution on PSP even had a what-if story that took place after the end of the game that kind of served like a pseudo-sequel to the events of the movie, where Piccolo came back as Neo Piccolo. He is a Super Namekian now, and he is dressed out, he's decked out in this red cape. He actually looks, I'm not gonna lie, kind of sick. And he had this whole little storyline where he came back, he had to fight Goku and Roshi one last time. But that's a whole new model that they made just for a what-if storyline in the PSP game for Dragon Ball Evolution. They even went that far. The what-if storylines here don't do this, they're not it, man. They're not it. For years, the one defining aspect of this game was his ability to take Tenkaichi on the go. Of course, that aspect died when both this game and the PSP essentially also died out as we moved on to new consoles. We moved on to the Raging Blast series, had 2 more Tenkaichi titles, and Ultimate Tenkaichi and Dragon Ball Z for Connect, which I don't know, does anyone actually consider for Connect a Tenkaichi title? It says so in the Dragon Ball Z wiki, but I kind of refuse to look at this and say, oh yeah, it's part of this historic Dragon Ball Z game series, just because of how similar it looks to Ultimate Tenkaichi. Like, that's just wild. And then there's Sparking Zero. The fact that it can be played on both a Steam Deck and even a PlayStation Portable kind of, means it's technically a portable experience. Thus, there really is unfortunately nothing that makes this title special, save for its tag team system, which in my experience at least, ended up being annoying more often than not. It's such a huge difference when you compare it to the Budokai series where, yeah, technically Budokai 3 is better than the previous 2 games, and even Another Road is better in most places than Shin Budokai. But every single entry in the Budokai series does offer something completely unique. Budokai 1, 2, and 3 all tell the exact same story, sure, but in completely different ways. And well, I'd actually argue that Budokai 2 takes so many liberties with its story to the point that it feels like a completely fresh take along with its fresh little board game system. Listen, I would still recommend Tenkaichi Tag Team to anyone if you're a massive Dragon Ball Z fan. If you're a DBZ historian who just wants to check out everything that this franchise has to offer, like I am, then definitely check out Tenkaichi Tag Team. But other than that, like, I don't know what else to say about it. You're really not missing much. I'd argue it's technically in the bottom half of the Tenkaichi games. I mean, when you have Sparking Zero and Tenkaichi 1 through 3 as your competition, you can't really do much, but it's still better than a solid 75% of all Dragon Ball Z games that have ever existed, so at least it has that going for it. Congratulations, Tenkaichi Tag Team. You are a fundamentally sound Dragon Ball Z game. You're better than Sagas. Oh, God.